On this episode of the podcast, Bob Fish and I talk about the importance of taking a break. Hope you dig it. Bob Fish, how are you, my friend?
Fabulous. Good morning.
Welcome back from your break. How was it?
Perfect, right? So, like a lot of people,
I love that.
we're traveling kind of in-state. We're not hopping on an airplane or anything like that. And we chose Mackinac Island, which is where my wife and I got married 13 years ago. We chose Stone Cliff, which is really removed on the island. And all we did is hike and kayak, which is kind of what we do at home, but we had a slightly different view and a little change of pace.
Well, and for people who are listening to this, wherever you're listening or watching this, the thing about Mackinac, when you're back there behind the Grand, which is kind of like the barrier between the busy area and the not busy, the hiking back there is pretty incredible, and you've seen nothing like it anywhere else in the state. So I even though you and I spend a ton of time outside, it's still different up there.
Totally different. And then, a little thing, I'm pretty sure everybody knows this, but because of the high water, that ring road that goes around that's 8 miles, you can't do it. You can't do the ring road because they're reconstructing it and it's basically falling into the water. But Michelle and I went out.
It's a kayak loop right now.
Yeah, right. You can kayak it. But Michelle and I did get around it because there was thunderstorms one day, and we went after the last thunderclap, and the construction trucks weren't out yet, and we got the full ring. And, that's just such a Michigan thing to do,
For sure. So this has been a crazy year as far as tempo, right? And you're seeing tech companies talking about their employees taking a break. And so somebody like yourself, what is 5 days or 6 days or whatever you were actually unplugged, what does that do for you, and how important is it for you and your wife to just get away for 5 or 6 days and turn it all off?
Yeah, we're gone Monday through Friday. And, I'd like to think that I turned it all the way off, but, I took it down about 95%. But, my wife and I have a mission to visit 150 countries. So we're like travel hounds, right? Now, we're not going to go do anything crazy like that in the balance of this year, although we might go to Africa if we can in December, for Farm Direct and that kind of thing. But it's just a break. It's a break from the computer screen. It's a break from your emails. It's a break from Teams. It's a break from, virtually everything that you're doing. And, so many of us are at home, and we're just cycling from Zoom calls to emails to telephone, and then wash, rinse, and repeat. And it's really hard to find a differentiation point between what's work, what's home, what's friends, and stuff like that. So when you go away like that, it's really clear that you're away and you're there to relax and have a good time,
That's awesome. And, like I was saying, when all of those days sort of blur together, this ability to sort of get away, and, what we've been trying to do here is build some summer back into something that doesn't feel like summer, because you're stuck here. The kids are stuck here. It's this, like, to your point, this rinse and repeat, finding a way to kind of get out and clear your head and do something different and get a different view on the world. Totally. Is not only important, but one of the interesting parts about trying to figure that out, and you and I were talking off air, is trying to figure out a place to go that feels okay.
Right. Feels reasonable. And we were talking about this earlier, but tech companies are begging their people to take time off. Because nobody's really taken a day off. They're just completely cycling constantly at home. And it's pretty destructive to the brain.
Well, it's destructive to the brain. And I was, I'm in a couple of Facebook groups, and one of the people on the Facebook groups was complaining that she's 6 or 7 months pregnant, and her boss continually texts her after 9 or 10 or 11 o'clock. Yeah. And, she was asking, how do I navigate this? And I was responding, well, my mother always used to tell me that is what you permit is what you promote, right? My
Right.
mother's very sage-like in that way.
Right.
And I use some of the same advice. It's like if somebody texts you on your birthday when you're off or emails you and you respond, you create a Pavlovian work response that they
Oh,
think that you're available 24/7, 365.
that's right.
But I wonder if right now, and I don't know if you have any insight into this, but as I'm just speaking out loud, like I wonder if that's actually gotten worse since you don't really know the difference, right? You don't know what day it is, you don't know what week it is, you don't know what time it is. So
Right.
you are answering emails at 11 o'clock at night
That's
because
right.
you don't know where you are.
That's right. Like when I used to commute to work, and when I came home and crossed the threshold, I kind of knew that my day was done. But I don't cross the threshold anymore, and I think that that's the thing that's happening to a lot of people is that there's no line that you cross that you say, okay, my day's over. You
Yeah,
know?
because I mean, even you and I both have offices. It still doesn't feel like a threshold. You know, it's crazy.
Not at all. Not at
So,
all.
what's business side? What's going on? I was interested, because we've been talking for a number of weeks about what's happening in your industry,
Yeah.
and I was thinking this week, you guys have been on this sort of in what we call in the business world the inverted hockey stick that every business wants to have, where you're going
Yeah.
the right direction, right, as
Yeah.
opposed to the other way, right? The correct hockey stick is what a
Yeah.
business doesn't want. But we're actually heading into peak time for you. And
Yeah.
so, what is the anticipation when you're getting to September and October? And then what happens in November, December? Because for me, my coffee consumption, especially like with what you and I would label treats, right? Where
Yeah.
you go and like get something fun, seems to accelerate in November and December because the holidays sort of do that for me. But from a business perspective, what does that look like for you guys?
Yeah. Right. So, traditionally, summer's usually kind of a down period of time for us, and the reason that it is all our regular customers go away and go on vacation, right? I mean, they hop on a plane, they go to Disney, or they go to the Grand Canyon, or whatever it is that they're doing. They're just out of their normal routine, and so we don't really see them with the same degree of frequency than the school year normally produces for them, right? So once the school starts back up, everybody gets back into routine, we start accelerating, and that coincides with what is sort of the perfect fall weather. And perfect fall weather brings new customers to us, not just coffee drinkers, but we do caramel hot cider, we do hot cider, hot chocolate, all these kinds of things that just sort of say fall, right? And all that converges at one moment in time. So September and October tend to be our busiest moments in time. Well, right now, here we are in summer, and we're plus somewhere between 21 and 29% over 2019 sales, which is really quite remarkable. So,
And I just want to stop for people who
yeah,
this may be the only episode that they watch. One of the reasons that statistic is important is because you guys have grown consistently year in and year out anyway.
that's right.
So to be double-digit growth on top of a year that you already grew
Yeah,
during a global pandemic, during
yeah, right.
is insane.
Like a good growth rate for Biggby Coffee would be somewhere between 12 and 17%. If we were doing that, we would say, hey, we're having a good year. And that's a combination of new store sales and same store sales both going up, right? But now we're plus 10 points on that, right? So it's awesome. It's great. We love it. But we're pretty sure it's going to continue on in that particular trajectory as we move into the fall months. Now, school's going to start back up, but a lot of schools aren't re-engaging. But Biggby is a really safe place to get a treat, to get a little quality something, and nothing says fall like Biggby coffee, caramel apple cider, all that stuff. And so, our best month, September, October. October is always really good. 31 days, no holidays, right? September has a holiday in it, so holidays always kind of muck up the standard of sales. November, December are really good, although Thanksgiving puts a little hitch in that.
Sure.
And then we sort of, the months between Thanksgiving and Christmas tend to be sort of off the charts because we're not just selling coffee. by the cup, but by the pound, and gift
Gift
cards and all
cards
this
and
kind of thing for the holidays. And then it really drops off the cliff basically December 25th as we head into January and February. But we're pretty sure also January and February are going to be pretty good because people are going to be housebound and they need some place to get out. And we used this very early on in the COVID dialogue, the idea of finding something that's normal or normalcy and so on and so forth. And they'll still need that too.
Do you think, because I've been thinking a lot about the way in which this has changed us almost on a cellular level, the way in which we interact with the world, and I mean that literally, right? It feels like everything is different. But I've been thinking here in Michigan. Now you guys are all over the place, right? You're in Charleston, you're all over the place. But here in Michigan specifically, I've been thinking about, I wonder if people will want to stay out on patios longer because it feels safer, right? Like even though it's cold, I mean, assuming it's not raining or snowing, I'm wondering if people and restaurants and, QSR places that have patio ability. So here at my house, the Biggby does have a small sort of patio locale.
Right.
If that, your thoughts on if that stays open longer than it would on a typical year because people might be looking for that respite.
Oh, for sure. I mean, even Michelle and I, on a personal level, the only way we engage with people is on our deck, 10 feet apart outside, right? So, and we're going to stretch that season as long as we can. We'll probably be sitting there in our coats, drinking cocktails and hanging out together, where normally we would have been inside by that moment in time. But we'll keep the little fire pit going a little bit longer this year for sure.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right, my friend. As always, it's a pleasure to talk to you. And we've started doing this for the last couple of weeks. But this week, if people are looking for the drink to pick up, what should they be drinking this week?
It's the same one as last week. I hate to be repetitive, but the sweet foam caramel cold brew, we can't keep it in stock. It's so popular, right? And I don't know if you know what sweet foam is, but like there's usually whipped cream. Whipped cream has a lot more air in it, but basically you're using whipping cream, but not whipping it up as much.
Sure.
And so it's almost pourable, right? It's a pourable cream, and that degree of fat. And I probably shouldn't tell people there's fat, but I mean, if you don't know, then you're not awake or whatever. But that degree of fat with the acid of coffee it's a perfect complement, right? So dairy is a base, coffee is an acid, and when you marry those two things together, you get a neutral pH, and your tongue and your stomach and all that really love it that much more. And then it's a sweet foam, so it just has a little tinge of sweetness to it that is just a perfect complement. But people just love it.
All right, brother. Have a wonderful week.